analysis is drawn. So analysis is basically presented in what in text itself, right?
Yeah, so if a user asks like how much I spent in total last month, so he gets a text answer that this is the amount spent in last month, and
Correct.
like
And
we
does a user have so the data whatever he uploads it gets into your history, right?
yeah, it is saved in a chat history as yeah, so
So
the user
user has a option to delete the chat history.
yes, user has the option to delete.
So you don't retain the copy.
I mean, user can delete the chat history itself, so the data and chat history gets deleted together. And if the user wants to continue with the chat with this data later on, so he can come back and the file remains on the server itself. But it is fully encrypted. We don't get to know the contents of the data, and the content is also not sent to any LLM, so it is encrypted form.
So part of the feature is that you encrypt it as the user uploads it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Mm,
our main goal later on is to enable other businesses to integrate this kind of solution into their own product, so they can provide it as as a additional feature to their own users. So basically, a B2B2C kind of thing. Like we would approach Paytm or any HDFC bank to integrate this kind of agent. So, like a Paytm user would ask like how much I spent on transport in last month. So if Paytm has integrated this AI agent, uh, the end user would get the answer very easily, and the end user could ask how much I spent on each category in last month. And because Paytm has already has that data in a format, so they can automatically connect with the agent.
well, Paytm kind of players, they will be better equipped because they will all be using a lot of CRM tools. Mhm. So, so you are targeting Paytm kind of businesses.
I mean, it's in the roadmap that after a year on, when the model and agent gets more accurate, more has better speed, we would like to pitch to these businesses, to these corporate clients, to partner with them as a distributor of our agent. But first, like in the initial days, we want to cater to businesses who have business raw business data and who cannot hire a don't have resources to hire a separate analyst to perform analysis.
Yeah, some SMEs would be the ideal. Small
Yeah,
medium businesses would be ideal
yeah.
target.
Firstly, we will be targeting the small medium businesses, and yeah.
Right. So, what stage are you in now?
So we have completed a prototype. We are currently testing various models. We are testing if multiple files can analysis could be performed on single and multiple files and various other data formats like XLX means Excel files which are not CSV, and Google Sheets, like directly pasting the link of the Google Sheets would allow users to chat with that, and SQL databases, Databricks databases. So we are testing different various models, and we are also fine tuning our model. So the fine tuning would create a much better response in the future. Like as the model gets used, it gets better.
So,
Basically,
well,
accuracy testing and model testing.
that's good. That's good. So, how large is your team?
Sorry,
How large is your team?
it's like we were three members, but we are currently two only. Both are developers.
Yeah. So, what's
So
your
like
background?
I did my bachelor's in CS from Delhi Technological University. I passed out recently last year only. So I do handle product management and backend infrastructure and backend development.
So you're working elsewhere as well?
No, I'm doing this full time.
And your partner?
So he's an experienced front end developer. He has over 4 to 5 years of experience developing web applications. So he also does freelancing on his side and contributes to this project parallelly.
Oh, okay. Nice. You have not worked anywhere?
No, I graduated last year only, so I'm experimenting with these projects. Like,
Sometimes it helps to work in some places so that you get little more structured approach to what you're doing and all that and how to go about it. But I
yeah,
guess probably that's why you joined this NASCOM uh, cohort to get that help. Okay.
yeah, I have thought about it. Like, I think some people have suggested that working somewhere creates more of a rigid mindset that how a big organization or how a company is run. But when we are starting new, we have like more flexible approach, new approach. I mean, there are pros and cons of all things.
That's true. There's pros and cons of everything. Yeah. Well, Akhilesh, looks like nobody else is joining. I couldn't make out anything.
Hello.
Yeah, Akhilesh.
So I think you should start.
Okay. Abu, you understood anything? No, you are also on mute. Yeah,
Yeah, so
you're on mute again.
yes. So yeah, I couldn't make out what he was saying. Maybe Akhilesh could type in the chat.
I'm audible, sir.
Yes, yes, no, please.
So I'm saying maybe students will join in between, so we should start with the workshop.
Okay. So, Abu, what I'll do is uh, I'll get started uh, and maybe I'll run through fast. And probably what we could do is that, I mean, of course, if somebody else joins, it's good. If not, we could probably discuss this in the context of your own business and your how do you want to approach your own MVP, what makes and what constitutes an MVP and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sir. That sounds good.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I think basically, if we break down the approach to, okay, maybe let me just go back. What what is expected of today's product development and MVP testing? So, and also it's interesting, Abu, that you are playing the product management role. So I could go through one slide and then probably discuss about how you approached it. Is that okay? Let's just make it interactive because it's anyway just Akhilesh is an observer, and other thing is a recording instrument. So we might as well make it useful for you, and hopefully, when this recording is shared with somebody else, they may be able to understand in the context. I'll also try in between to address it from a aspect of uh, an MVP, not necessarily a software-based product, because there are a lot of different approach comes into play when we talk about a physical device and making an MVP for a physical product. So, so first step would be you identify a problem. So, in this context, this is where you know many a times people tend to go with their own assumptions and sometimes observations. Again, based on or prompted by somebody else, and sometimes also what happens is that I'm referring to what I've seen in the past, right? That people tend to approach it from a, like somebody, some other ventures got a lot of money, they have raised money elsewhere, and so let's look at doing the same thing uh, in the context of India, and we should be able to raise money for the same thing. So, see why people pick up things. Uh, Sometimes the reasons can be quite illogical as well. And no matter what people do, most times, unfortunately, from my observation, that most times it is not really focused at any specific target market, but and as in identifying a clear cut market and identifying that this is the pain point and these are the inefficiencies, and this is how we would like to solve it, and this is how uh, uh, it can be approached, and this is why a customer will pay for it. That would mean that it is that is a validation if customer is willing to pay for it. So this exercise most times is not done. So Abu, did you, before you got started, did you try going through this exercise of, you know, identify and do a market research, conduct surveys, speak to people, either individually or in focus groups? Did you do any of those exercises?
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned, we previously were working on a SaaS for businesses. So we talked, like we got feedback for that SaaS, like what we are missing out, like uh, so they told us that there was not a clear differentiator to use our SaaS over other available projects. So they told us that if a customization or personalized dashboard could be built, or I could get customized answer to that. So we built on top of that and started talking to more users, like if they want a customized or personalized data analysis, and we took that up.
So, when you say customers you already had, how did you get your customers to start with?
Yeah, so on the previous SaaS Toffee Money that we had around 50-60 businesses who were using our app. So we talked with them, and few startups within our incubator and within from various networking groups. I talked with them also, and some uh, family, friends, relatives. Like I surveyed around 60, 70, 80 people to know and to confirm on the problem. And also I researched about existing solutions and how they were, how much were they capable, and how much traffic these solutions are getting. Are they getting any traction?
How in the first instance they became your customers? Because how did you identify them? How did you approach as these are the customers? Because you first built another product and then went to them, or that product development exercise itself you are targeting. Okay, these could be my customers. How did you arrive at that? I understand for this product your previous products users contributed to arriving at this as a problem statement, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
when you previously when you built, did you have a target in mind, and how did you arrive at the target?
Yeah, so on the previous problem, like I didn't have a, it was not a novel idea. Like they were already finance management application. So I thought maybe I could target a niche customer market and get them to use like my product. So I was not searching for any problem. I was trying to solve a already existing problem uh, that could be solved, like to gain experience and to get to talk with the users. Like I didn't have any original idea in the first place.
Okay. Well, honestly, you know what? I don't think it is as important uh, as to have a original idea. A lot of times, I think we get too carried away in trying to make it a original idea, or it has to be very unique and nobody else is doing or done it before. So I don't think that is the criteria, right? Uh, uh, One second. I think there is somebody trying to come in, so he needs to be admitted. Will you, Akhilesh? Can you admit it? Some Shivam Gupta is there waiting. Yeah. Okay. So, so yeah, I don't think it has to be unique, or the approach needs to be something from a point of at a starting point itself is a differentiator. So it is okay that if there were other products, but did you think that the other products had this particular gap? I mean, that would be more important, right? In terms of, there is already an existing product, or there are multiple products in that space, but almost all of them are doing this, but what customer needs is this, or this particular aspect of customers need is not being met by that. So it could even be that. So for that aspect, one, either you need to be a user so that you can identify it, or you need to be talking to people. So most important thing is that just talk to people, reach out to people. And second thing is, Abu, how did you get 50, 60 customers for it? Was it random people downloading your app online?
Yeah, so to get them, I basically posted on various forums. Like there are Twitter communities, Reddit forums. Like I searched for like I searched for questions, like people were asking, is there any application where I can track my subscriptions? So I had so in the app that I made, we had a subscription tracker where businesses could track their recurring expenses, like a Canva subscription they have or any other subscription. So I yeah, so I like answered those questions and put it out my product in those forums, and I also emailed a few people through cold outreach. Yeah, but I didn't like quite use performance marketing or advertise it. I only tested few of the advertising and made some social posts. So yeah, like 10, 15 users from here and there, like we got to around 50, 60 at the end.
So they were paid users, or you gave it to them to try it out?
Yeah, so we had a free plan and a premium plan. So all of them were basically free users. Like when I surveyed them, like what what other things would they want to become a paid user, or would this application add any value to your business process? So then the feedback came along that yeah, about what I did.
Did you do uh, Shubham? We are basically discussing approach to product development and building an MVP. And in that process, we just got started talking about how did Abu go about doing it for his own product? So just to set context to what is happening here. So if you want to say something, you can just raise your hand and come into the conversation. So what is another thing, Abu, I wanted to understand is that did you do any exercise to validate whether those users are your target customers? Did you first of all define this is your target customer? This is the kind of a business is should be my target.
I mean, like to define a target group, like we,
Yeah. The ideal user for me is a company which is 5 to 10 crore size, about 10 to 12 people, 10 to 15 employees. I mean, something like that, right?
yeah, of
And they are
course.
in the online business or they are in the offline business. They use this kind of a tool, something. How did you define your
Yeah, so
target?
we defined our target as digital first companies who are using subscription based tools who are less than 10 people in size.
Okay.
Yeah,
And did
so
you validate the 60 users you had? How many of them actually fit into the target group that you had preset?
actually, no. So we didn't get to know much about of if they fitted in the targeted group. Like I usually uh, asked through them Google form questions like if they would use the user, if they would use the product, but I didn't ask if they were fitting in the target group.
Yeah. So maybe Abu, you can make note of what we have discussed, right? So that those points could be useful for you in your this new venture.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's very important because see everybody, and particularly when you're on a freemium model, see every customer interaction can be useful because it at least we believe that it will contribute to strengthening or building a better product, right? But what is most important here is that we are listening to the most definitive customer that we have in mind. Unless, of course, you don't really have a clarity of this is the target group that I should be going after. Because even to pick a target group, you need to be doing sufficient exercise, right? You need to put sufficient effort to identify that, okay, there is an opportunity in this target segment and I'm going to go after that. So once you are frozen in that, it is important in the freemium model because the majority of those people who come into freemium model who use free service may not really actually move up to premium because they don't necessarily fit into the target group that we envisage to cater to, right? So that is why it is very important that very quickly you need to figure out a way to ascertain that they belong there. Otherwise, if they're using free and if they're contributing to testing, it is okay. I mean, we need to be prepared, right? If we are going with a freemium model, we need to try to use the free users to be contributing to strengthening our product build and capacity. But at the same time, if we are having to invest our time in taking the feedback to build, power pack our own product based on their feedback, we need to be very sure that they are the target customer for us. Because if they're not, then you may actually be adding things. I mean, you may see, like for now, Abu, you have already pivoted into something else, correct?
Yes, sir.
So how how do you ascertain that your pivot is based on the kind of target customers who will not be only fiddling out with the free version but will be willing to pay a premium for it? And not only that, but that can be a substantially big number. I mean, like what you told me prior to this, that eventually you want to go after very big customers and all that, that's fine. But uh, see, at a conversation level, it sounds like there is a huge opportunity. But if you are getting invested, you're already pivoting into a different uh, uh, direction. It's very important that you validate it, right?
So to add something, like
Yeah.
my motive to invest more in the AI solution was that the man, finance management was basically an application that could be replicated very easily. What I thought. I mean, if a big business who has around 10-20 lakhs to spare, he could blindly copy my product in whole in like 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Mhm.
So what I aimed was to build a product that is very modular and could itself be added and itself be integrated into the Coffee Money finance management application. So what I'm building, the AI agent, I would integrate it into my financial SaaS as an additional feature, and my plan is to open source the finance SaaS. So to show users that this service is using AI agent, and to make it op- basically attracting more developers and other businesses like the financial SaaS itself to integrate our backend of AI agent.
Okay. Well, uh, see, see, you're in a stage where you can go and experiment, but idea is that let's go through the process. Just follow the look into the process. Idea is that if you can bring in little more structure to your approach, so that you get to a stage and phase where you will be able to scale bigger. That's the whole idea and this whole effort as well, right? So let's go through it. Let's continue with the uh, uh, presentation workshop, and I'll keep, if I think need to poke you on that, I'll come back. But uh, do follow this and try to see if you can take things into your own approach, because I think having a little structured approach is not as bad, and also bringing in some amount of discipline into product development and product management can take you a lot further. And also, maybe I'll keep it to the last. I've just added something which, from a point of setting the context to what we are talking about. So, see, idea is that if we are going about it, first thing is that we need to even arrive at a minimum viable approach itself. Because see, what we can do is it's like, as some people say, right, boiling an ocean, right? You can do anything if our approach is about boiling an ocean. But what is important is that if we have to take it in a bowl, what can we take and what should it be and how should that be approached? So that is where doing a little structured effort in terms of surveys and driving them to specific uh, conversation flows will become important. But most important thing is who you talk to, right? If you are talking to anybody who's responding to you, or anybody who can be articulative, may not be of use. So try to speak to people who broadly fit into your target group. So that way, every interaction is more meaningful for you. And this is where even a POC is actually a good idea. See, a lot of times people tend to think a POC is more to, uh, some people I talk to, they say they are doing a POC just so that they can get some funding, or sometimes people do a POC to get a paid engagement because they are doing a free POC. So whatever it is, the whole idea is that you are trying to establish that you can deliver. So that is the whole purpose of doing a POC. So when you're doing a POC, make sure that you are going to come away with two things. One is the learning, and two is earning. So minimum, it has to be learning. But if you are only demonstrating that you already know, then if there is no real learning out of it, and chances of your earning is also not much, then you are actually better off not doing that POC. So you always have to evaluate that. So every time you get an opportunity to do a POC, no matter with whom, right? I mean, there are people who talk about that I've done a POC to DRDO or I've done a POC to some very large company. Point is, what did you get out of it, right? See, if you're a student, you do a internship with them, the certificate is useful for you to get a job. If you're an entrepreneur, doing a POC of no consequence is actually of no consequence, right? Either you got to be learning something out of it. You're getting a window to what they are doing, so you are in turn able to get their unique approach to something that they do, are better than many other people, or they are known to be, on top of things in the way they do certain things. Like if it is DRDO, let's say, you at least get some insights to how they approach from building a solution in the defense space. I'm just giving you DRDO because I was talking to somebody who was doing something for DRDO. So essentially, you got to be getting some insights from a domain perspective itself. So you got to be learning something out of it. So worst case, you are not going to get a paid project. At least you got a understanding of how that line of business works and something unique that learning in turn can strengthen you in while you approach something else. So please be sure that you're going to get something out of it. If it is not, then it's not useful. And then coming to a minimum viable product or MVP. See, a lot of times, today in the first half, I was sitting with an entrepreneur. Uh, he is 52 years old, comes with a wealth of knowledge, experience, having done so many things. He was part of at least two startups as a part of a very early team, having built it to very large size, right? I mean, significant size, and one of them had a big exit. The founder sold it, so he's had experience of working with him at an early stage and building it bigger. So great learning. He comes with such solid understanding and all that. And he was obviously in the operations side, so he was really on top of what needs to be done. So he was trying to talk to me and show me up an MVP that he has built. He explained the complete process of how the business gets done, right? The complete workflow of everything. This was in the healthcare space, right? And there is a tech component, obviously, but much of it has a lot of movable parts, right? There is an element of clinicians, there's an element of diagnostics and labs and report generation, the dashboard, and some amount of analysis uh, and also he does have a roadmap from a point of integrating AI and building a predictive model, whatever. So thing is, he's talked about a complete roadmap and what he's trying to build. And the last thing about his MVP is minimum and minimum viable, right? He's packing it with A, B, C, D, E, F. See, it's a solid product for a large scale enterprise user. So, what is important is cutting down, right? Narrowing it down to making it absolutely what is the most important thing that the user finds significantly valuable in using this product. Can we identify that? And can we just go with that? Are you with me in this? Just give me a thumbs up if you're with me. I've been talking for too long, so I'm not used to total silence. Okay. So it's very, very important that we identify this, that one most valuable aspect of it. See, if you do have a product roadmap, it's good to pen it down, but not good to start putting it up into the product feature right at the start. Just just narrow down, beat it down, and say that this one thing and one thing only. What is that one thing? See, if it is relational, if it is dependent, that is another aspect. But try to make one core thing and build it into the MVP. And that is where it becomes easy one from your own point of view of putting a amount of effort, resources. Because see, when we add up so many features, like he was having some features which are going to be so data heavy, right? It's going to make it so data heavy from day one, even for his product building exercise itself. He is ending up using huge cloud resource. The processing is so heavy for him. So, so, so you will end up paying huge bills even before you start making money. So it's very, very important that you define your MVP or minimum viable product and give very high critical importance to minimum viable, right? These two are very, very important. It has to be absolutely minimum and it has to be viable. And viable as in it has to be viable from a point of uh, attributing to a feature which is of significant value, right? So it's not just that viability from a point of you putting it together in a very easy and simple way. That is good if you can, but most important thing is that viability from a point of value identification and realization in that minimum aspect that you have picked. So that is what is important. Moving forward, is there any okay? If you have questions, you'll raise your hand. Design and development product roadmap. Yeah. What I'll do, I don't know. I assume you guys are familiar with Scrum and Kanban. Say
Yeah.
yes, no.
Yes.
You're familiar with that.
Yes.
So which one are you using when you're doing which agile process are you using?
So earlier we used to use Atlassian products, but
Hmm.
we moved on to use ClickUp, but because it has a generous free tier.
And what about I forgot the other name who joined us? Shivam, what about you? Yeah, sorry. I got. So I was asking Shivam, do you want to talk about it? Shivam, are you there? Shivam, are you in the software business? Hello.
So he was in drones business hardware.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, excellent. So maybe after we finish, Shivam, if you think there are conflicts in the approach, because obviously some of the things are all in the software sense, but almost all of it is applicable to hardware business as well, and not just hardware business. In fact, I would even put it for an where technology is basically an enabler, not a right. It's not a tech business, but a non-tech business where technology is an enabler. This is applicable. So, uh, in that context, I would urge you to look at it and try to uh, build that process and follow the process. I'll anyway share this uh, document as well. And I'll also do, in fact, what I've also done for another exercise is created some frameworks on Scrum and Kanban and all that. So I'll see, I'll share that with you. I think I've also captured briefly here. So is there any process you follow, Shivam, in your process of building a prototype for your drone? Are you in the product side or are you in the services side? Are you using drones and providing some other service on top of it, or are you building drones? What's your business?
So I guess Shivam has left
Shivam
the.
is no longer there. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We'll just continue. So, uh, yeah, a lot of times we tend to put ourselves as a uh, customer or a user and build user experience and user interface from our perspective. I think it is uh, quite setting up for disaster. But I think, Abu, you said that your partner comes from a UI UX experience of having, I mean, doing it for some other businesses. So I assume that he's familiar with this from a point of, you know, of wearing their shoes, or at least he must be familiar with the whole process of building a UI UX for this product. So I assume you're doing it with that. Let me see if I can put together some framework for this as well. But most important thing is that if you have you anyway have free users. So if you are on a freemium model and you're working with the users who are obviously not paying you, you can actually, in the process of your building, developing new user experiences, user interfaces, that is where you should actually tap into them and try to extract value from a usability point of view. Because from a feature point of view, you don't need insight from them because they may not be the right, they may not fit into, if they don't fit into your target uh, group that you have envisaged, then at least you should engage them to give you feedback. And also because they are your free customer, most times obligations work. Because I'm not paying, at least I should do that. So you can actually write to them in such a fashion that you should get them to contribute to be your you know, do that kind of a test and feedback mechanism and give them some value. At least, you could probably, you may not be able to have a lot of team members, hire people, put them on the job of doing testing and getting feedback. You actually try to use them itself, use your customers and particularly if they're free, get them to give you the feedback so that you know make it an iterative process, and try to compensate even by just giving them a little more premium feature, or or maybe you know you could just give your branded t-shirt, things like that, but try to utilize this. Don't have to increase your headcount and don't have to increase your expenses towards that. Try and build this thing of community among your users. Even among the premium users, you can make it a the way of building a community is try to extract them to get them to give you feedback for something more, right? And many a times, even for people, actually more than anything, gratification of recognition works better. Like you give them a super customer label and things like that. So try to do that. What happened? Okay. So lastly, I was talking about the development process, right? Uh, you I assume that most of you, I mean, of course, Abu is working on agile development process. Like to propose, you know, look at these iterative processes, which, like I just mentioned earlier, right, for user experience and user interface, you make it iterative, take feedbacks. This development process actually is built on this kind of a model. So let's just try at a very high level understand how these things work, because it helps to have little structured approach to doing these things. So if you're not familiar with the terminology for now, you can uh, go along with that. It's not too complicated. It's just that, you know, problem with most of the things that come from West, they're all lingo driven, right? We tend to associate some unique terminology just to make it cool or some claim some proprietorship. But if you look at it, much of it is, once again, I would say, a commonsensical approach. But here, this, of course, there is a difference. Kanban is more Japanese process approach, which has actually contributed to. And also, my suggestion is don't pick any of the processes because someone is telling you good or nice, right? Don't take it because I'm talking about these two or you got familiar with something else. It's always best to identify what is your style of doing, because it's very important we pick a process that suits best to our own style of functioning, right? Maybe we'll just revisit it after we just run through this. So as Scrum, you look at basically, you know, a product owner defines and prioritizes a product feature. So that is, you have to be defining it. And that is what is essentially we mean by product backlog creation. So you define it, but the process of definition is what we talked about previously, is try to define it uh, at a first level when you're building an MVP, narrow it down and see what is the minimum thing. And many a times what happens is that people, when they are approaching a product development, you tend to leave out the minimum. See, my suggestion is always keep a filter of MVP at every level of exercise. Ask, is it absolutely necessary? Is this feature necessary? What value it's going to bring? See, today, like I mentioned, right, the other conversation of this gentleman who's he's built a nice product actually in the health space, right? And he was giving me how is it different from the competition, right? And he had two slides from a competition point of view. One slide of competition was he was actually trying to capture who all does something similar but very well-known brands, and trying to say that match with everything that they are doing, but they don't have this. They don't have this one part of it. And next thing is he actually focused on the very similar category, as in he was trying to position himself as an aggregator. So this time he was positioning the aggregators in that space who technically are a direct competition to him. And he had a chart where it matches with four, five of it, and then there's some 3, 4 of it, nothing matches, only he is able to do it. And I was trying to ask him, I mean, it was very evident, and which unfortunately he didn't think through in that respect, is that many of those features which he thinks is a unique feature for him, which is the key differentiator, makes absolutely no consequence to these guys. They don't care about it. And even him doing it will not hurt their business, or them doing that will not contribute to this business. So what happens is that many a times when you are trying to define these product features, don't get carried away by the uniqueness of it. Be very, very value focused. Don't get excited, because he was so excited talking about this is what it is, this is what it is. All that is good, but it's of no consequence. Then everything that you try to define as a differentiator goes through the window, right? So this is a very common problem. Time and again I've seen it. So please, when you do this product backlog exercise, it's very, very critical, no matter which process you choose, but this is very critical. Sprint planning, select product back. So I don't think, Abu, you said you're not using or whatever you use. Okay, let's continue with that. So I'll also come to what is sprint. Maybe since it's also ongoing, getting recorded, though some of you other guys who are in building something as you actually can try to see what makes better sense for you. So it's very important that how the team selects, as in how do you select owners to doing certain key feature development process. So which team or which individual. So in many a times in the startups like Abu's, you are two people doing it, out of which one is you yourself or a core developer and the other person is a UI UX person. So in such scenarios, my suggestion is always focus on the MVP, not focus on the full product development, because it's we may not be doing a serious justice in what we want to be achieving. So don't elaborate on the features, but document everything. Document what all you want and pick what is absolutely critical. And in that process, it becomes easy. And if at all you are tapping into other resources, right, either a freelance resource, or even if you're looking at outsourcing it to somebody else to support you with some development efforts, be very clear what you're defining, what is it that you're expecting, and what outcome you want to achieve out of it. See, I've seen there is a big difference between not doing the third part, which is the expected outcome, if you don't define the expected outcome. Because most times the general understanding is I know what I'm expecting, and I know I've given him what is it that we want clearly. But what outcome from that is expected is another exercise. When you are actually penning down, you get to little more detail, clarity, and also try to narrow down to exactly defining what has to happen out of it from an outcome point of view. So please do that part. And that is how you also allocate to the people if you're working with outsiders, or if you're internally managing the team. Properly select, evaluate, and make sure that they have the understanding, or rather you both have the same understanding of what needs to be done and what the delivered outcome should be. And keep track of the workflow. And if you're a one person team, try to take help of an advisor or a mentor, so that you are able to discuss with your advisor mentor to see how the flow of work is happening, so that you are not getting lost, you're keeping the focus and keeping the right focus, so that your effort is also not getting wasted. And another thing is that will also help you do this review if you're an individual founder like you are, or if you have an external team, try to get a mentor who will sit and do the review with you, so that it becomes easy, and you're able to get the right feedback or even get right questions asked, so that you are channeled more effectively and your output is better. Otherwise, it's very easy to get distracted and we lose the focus. We'll end up doing so many things, so much of time is put in, and then nothing, no outcome, right? We don't want to get into that state. So that is where a lot of these efforts make it faster, and this process helps you get better outcome as well. And yeah, so with the feedback, you keep reflecting and also make it a habit to start documenting. Even if you're a small team, even if you're a one person developer, please initiate the process of documenting what is done, how much of it is done, and what more needs to be done, and why it needs to be done, and what you are not doing and why you are not doing. See, I think the last two part, what you're not doing and why you're not doing, believe me, is very critical. Because if you have an Excel sheet of process of documenting, and if you start putting what you have not done and why you don't want to do it, then that will contribute to getting you to focus on what is necessary, so that you keep yourself away from putting your effort onto something which is not as critical. So please do that. And team reflects on what went well, what didn't, and plan. So keep doing retrospective analysis. If you have set a milestone, if you didn't do, why you didn't do, and in the process of what you didn't want to do. So sometimes what happens is this exercise of evaluate, uh, retracing what you have done, what you have not done, and why, you will be able to better respond to what you should not be doing, because many a times things will move from here to that column, so that you're building in a better iterative process internally, right? So very quickly, referring to the sprint that we're talking about there, it works. It primarily helps you set, a little more discipline into your work process, right? Get work on a duration, timelines, and have a proper planning, and what needs to be done, who does what, and how it should be done, how what not should be done. So each of those things, so that when you're measuring it, the process and effort, you are able to keep track of where you're doing something wrong or what you didn't do right. So it helps you. So I'll share this document so you can go through it and try to see how do you apply to your own effort, because it makes your work that much more organized and structured. See, many a times we think, and earlier we were having a conversation, Abu. Uh, I was asking if you have worked elsewhere, and you also said there are pros and cons of working. Absolutely, there are pros and cons. What happens is that in a structured environment, a lot of these things gets addressed because a lot of KRAs are clearly defined. So no matter what level you are in an organization, you are able to operate within that structured framework. So output is better. But many a times, people, even having worked in such structured organization, when they come out and start building something, they will be very well trained in that. See, what happens is, it's one thing to operate in a or play in a game where rules are set by somebody else, versus coming in to play a game where you are required to set a rule, right? You get the difference. It's one thing about playing a game where rules are determined by somebody else, and it's another thing to play a game where you are expected to set the rules. So that is where a lot of times people coming with a lot of years of experience also fail to carry their learning, because they know how to work once that is given to them, but to translate into their own work becomes a challenge for many people. So that is where you please follow this process, approach it like this, then I think your effort will be better utilized. So each of these aspects, uh, if you have a team, then daily stand up would be really necessary to keep track of what and how. And sprint planning and backlog selection, we talked about it briefly. Make sure you get it right. And also the process of documentation also gives you, as you build on and as you add teams, you will be able to share it and better articulate it, and also for your own product life cycle, building future features and expanding the scope and all becomes easier. So you also start capturing these things into the whole documentation process, so that once your team expands, it becomes easy for them to come along with you and strengthen your effort rather than weaken your effort. So feedback, keep it in that and make it a lot more iterative for all your process, and keep reviewing it, keep a review cycle. This is where I've talked about having a mentor to go with. So another process is Kanban, and see, there are some differences. Maybe in the next slide, I'll show you what's the difference between Scrum and Kanban. But this approach, this is where I think maybe in the differences we'll talk about what kind of people should be trying to pick. What is your, what you think is your style of functioning? But here, so in this case, what we talk about is that to capture a visual representation of the workflow status. So if you are able to define each of those things and visualize it, it makes it a lot more easier. So typically what happens is that you work with a board, write slips, keep it, categorize it. So that is what the visual workflow means. I'll try to send a framework which makes it easier for you, whichever way you want to work with. Use that, and I mean, if you are using it, if you think this suits your style, then you can actually use that. So, so use the whole flow of it. You work on cycle time, lead time to analyze. So each of these things you need to build it into your task. So you a lot of these things, particularly in Kanban, it works a lot more iterative. Whereas in Scrum, we talk about little more set rules. Here, it operates with a lot more flexibility, and you it becomes more you know targeted towards what outcome you want to achieve. So from that respect, it becomes important that you define your metrics clearly. So you also have to adhere to it, right? I mean, if you say this is the thing that has to be done, you have to work towards doing it. And you also have to keep checking on it, keep taking feedback on it, keep reviewing the process so that you're actually doing what you said you're doing or what you set off to do. So it is also helpful, if you work with these things along with your co-founder, so that if you don't have a mentor to start or an advisor to help you with a directive, between you and your co-founder, each of them can play a buddy role or so you give me the report, I will be your conscience keeper of sorts. So likewise, you play the role play between each other. You should be able to achieve a lot of these things. So get the flow of it and pick what makes best sense for you. But each of them more or less similar, but more suitable to certain style of functioning. And also, I would say the entrepreneur's style of functioning. So different document. But if you look at it, a lot of these things are going to be successful if you come with a right clarity of your own effort. And also, this process helps you build the clarity if you are diligent in keeping up with the process. So it's both ways, right? It's like driving a level 3 autonomous, which is like it keeps you in the track, and if you're going off the track, it tells you, hey, you're going outside the lane, or you're changing the track. And if you're dozing off, car automatically slows down, and a little bit of a vibration in the steering to wake you up, and some system to trigger you to say that you're dozing off, things like that. So this is like a level 3 autonomous, what these processes help you with. So give attention to it, be little diligent in the way you follow it. it's going to be super helpful for you. So like I mentioned that at a high level, right, Kanban gives you, I mean, it's very useful if you have a continuous workflow with, uh, uh, particularly, if you, Abu, when you were talking about how you went about doing it, your own product, I was thinking that you perhaps are better suited to a Kanban process, right? I mean, that is my reading, right? So you look at it, but if you can adapt Kanban, probably you will find it far more effective for your product development and management process. So, but go through the comparison, look at it, try to identify your own style of functioning, what suits you best. And most important thing is that don't make it about you as a one individual in the team. Try to make it for your team as a team collectively, that is you and your co-founders. So that way it becomes more effective because see, it's always good to work with good established processes. These are all great processes. And multiple books are written about each of them. There are champions. I think large companies run a lot of workshops. They spend crores of rupees every year in getting their people trained with these two processes, depending on who uses what. But many a times, most of these organizations fail to realize one fundamental thing, that it is so important to stitch it up with the process, I mean, with the people and their style of functioning to make it more effective. So you as entrepreneurs have a better option to pick the right one which suits your style of functioning. So from that respect, I would urge you to look at it. I'll also try to send you frameworks for it. So yeah, testing and iteration. So coming back to our conversation, I'm referring to a conversation with Abu early on, that it is always good to get your own customers to do your usability test. But what is important is that customer, whether free or premium customer, if they are using it, if they are your user, they are using it. But if we fail to get their feedback effectively, then it's a loss. So whatever we do, we need to stitch up a very important process of iteration with the customer in the terms of capturing their feedback. It is also okay if you can sit across with them or have a live chat, but many a times it may also be necessary that you got to motivate them to give you this kind of feedback, because many a times they think, what is in it for me? So obviously one thing is that you need to create a narrative in such a way that by sharing the feedback, you can help them with being able to use the product or service far more effectively so that it contributes to their productivity, profitability, or sharing, whatever is the goal, right? Whatever is the uh, ultimate goal that they want to achieve using this product or service can be amplified. So for that, you need to have the right communication. So that is where you can actually get maximum output and more important. But again, you need to. My suggestion is please take help if you're not able to come up, because a lot of times what happens is that many people who come, particularly the founders who come from the product side, who are building the product, they are so uh, they are in such a cloud of their own creation that they are not able to see beyond that cloud that they have got themselves into. So they fail to see that it needs an improvement, one. And two, they fail to understand. In fact, some customer proactively gives a feedback. Instead of taking the feedback, many a times I see they actually justify it to say that why that feedback is not correct and what they have done is actually better. They try to defend it. So please don't get into that mess. It's very easy to get into it. but very difficult to get value out of the conversation. So please focus on getting the value rather than trying to define what you've done is right, or trying to define that your product is best, great. That is not the point. If you're talking about iterative process to test and create, build on a better, more efficient, more productive, more value generative and value deriving product or a solution for a customer, then you got to be open to feedback. So please tell yourself before you do that, and also take help if you're not able to come up with what kind of a feedback to take and how to take the feedback and how to interpret the feedback to be useful from your point of view. So this is a big differentiator in making sure that we have a great product at hand. So please do that exercise. If you think you're not ready, take help. It's okay. It's okay. It's always okay to take help. So performance testing, yeah, different conditions, especially if it's web or app. Load testing, I'm sure you understand. Speed optimizations, you understand. In fact, many of these features, there are people who provide services, take that. And another thing is sometimes even your hosting service also provides these features, so take that help. And another thing is depending on the kind of product, you try to tap into the user community, or sometimes tap into college students, university students, give them an experience of it, be it a hardware or a software. Colleges and universities are actually very willing to expose their students to anything new, because anything of that will help them in their own career. And all you have to do is spend a day or two there, getting them to use it. And you can even send a digital certificate. These days, they don't even expect a printed certificate. You just take all the people who participated in it, take their email, or take their names and details, send it off to their university coordinator with their certificates digitally generated. Right? So you can reward them in so many creative ways. You don't have to spend too much of money, but you can actually use a lot of these kind of things to even build load testing or speed optimization, or even usability can be done. So please do that, but be mindful that you are not taking feedback, not meaningful feedback. See, a lot of times you need to be very clear what kind of feedback you want from where. So if you think the student feedback would be relevant, be very sure and take it. But if it is not likely to be a customer feedback, use them for other things, but be very clear what you're using them for. Well, I think we've done a go-to-market workshop. I don't know, was it with you guys or I did somewhere else? But I think NASSCOM will facilitate. If you have not been part of one, I think NASSCOM in the past have facilitated. I have run go-to-market strategy workshop as well. So maybe you can get access to that video itself. I'll see what are the, I think I've also shared some frameworks even for customer acquisition cost. How do you capture it? How do you build on that? So you make use of that. Akhilesh, just see if you can share with them the GTM workshop that I have done in the past, if that video can be useful for them. Or if you think they're going to go through or they've already gone through, then it's good enough. So at a high level, just it's very important that for any of it, first and foremost is that you are clear who your customer is. Unfortunately, believe me, I don't know, I may be sounding very repetitive in this aspect, because many founders have met, startups particularly, that they actually don't know who their customer is. I mean, it sounds very stupid, right? But unfortunately, a lot of times the assumptions work. Many a times people actually think that they build a product and people will come in and knock on the door and buy. It doesn't work. And two, many a think that this is my customer, but it may actually be somebody else. So few questions and it becomes far more clear that they have actually not thought through as seriously, they assume. So please don't leave a lot of these things to assumption. So that is where all this process there, and it's not that because you are not familiar with that makes you like I use the term stupid. No, it doesn't make you stupid because you know what you're good at. Maybe these are the areas you need help. So it's okay to go and ask for help and get help, seek help and work on it. But when you work on it, work a little more structured. That is it. So, so if you think it is actually, Abu, what you did is very smart in the way you got customers. So you actually spent time, but you didn't spend money. You went into various platforms. You answer this question. I think it's a very, very smart way of doing things. And this is exactly how you should be going about it. So maybe what you could do, I urge, is that you actually can put that how you approach it and share it with the rest of the people or share it with uh, Abhishek. Abhishek, you could probably take how Abu built his customers for the first set of 60 customers. I think it's a very classic, uh, no cost, but there is an effort. But how we went about doing it, I would try and doing it, step one, step two, step three. It becomes much easier for people to go through. But what you've done is a very, very, very smart thing. Probably you did it intuitively. I don't know if you had somebody's help in doing it, but that can be very helpful for others. So please do share it with Abhishek. So yeah, rest of the things are of course GTM itself is a point of going beyond the immediate circle of people. So this is an exercise where we need to ideally have some money to do that. So it's not really for a startup at a very early stage, but for a startup, preferably going to the next level. So assuming, but doesn't mean that you need to be spending significant amount of money. Your approach can be lean, and you can also be very creative, like what Abu has done. So, but do a structured effort, don't do random things, and always document everything so that you know what you're doing, what you're not doing, and why you're doing, why you're not doing. So that if you have to, pivot in the approach or the strategy, you will be able to look at it based on these things, how the outcome is at every point of time. Try to map what you did, what you didn't do, why you did, why you didn't do, and what was the outcome. I think a very simple exercise will help you, make a better strategy. So we in fact had this growth and scaling workshop just the other week. So um, I've shared the framework which he said he will share it with you in terms of even LTV. How do you evaluate it? So I've also defined a lot of other metrics. So go with that and just see if you can also watch that video just to refresh when you're approaching it, and then take use of that framework. Yeah, Abu, you want to say something?
Sir, I was saying that the slideshow is currently showing slide number 5 only. So are we on slide 5 only, or have you moved?
I'm changing it. Are you not able to see? What do you see the title?
I see only Scrum for product development, slide 5 only.
I don't know, yeah. How is this happening? Okay, 1 second. Are you able to see anything?
Yes, now it has changed.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know. I was in this slide, growth and scaling. So this is what I was referring to as the workshop that we did last week. And prior to this, I think you heard me though. I was talking about GTM, go to market strategy.
Yes, sir.
So some of these frameworks I've already shared, which he said he will share it with you. So please go through if you guys have any problem, any doubt in incorporating it, particularly with your use case. Reach me, I'd be happy to help you with that. But some of these things are already done, so I urge you, please. Do you have access to the older videos? Like this growth and scaling, what we did last time, do you have access to that video?
I guess, sir, it is put on the YouTube channel of Sienna Spaces. I will have to look up for.
Or it is online in public domain, or it's private for you?
It's in the public domain, I guess. I have to look it up for.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right, interesting. So if it is in the public domain, do share with me. Let's see if there's anything I can improve upon. Yep.
So after every workshop, this,
Sorry,
when
Akhilesh.
so I'm saying after every workshop, we are uploading these recordings on YouTube channel.
I'm not able to make out your voice is not very clear. Is it only me or
I mean,
Abu? Are you?
I wouldn't say.
Do you want to put it on chat? Sorry, I don't know if it's my audio. Can you put it on chat?
I guess Sari was trying to say that every session they record and put it on the Sienna Space YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, okay. So then just go through it because that would be helpful, particularly in the time when you're working on this exercise. So likewise, the growth and scaling, and also now that Akhilesh will share those frameworks, it should be useful because I've put together on quite a few of these things, even on CAC, LTV, quite a bit. Even some of the components that would be useful for GTM in terms of how do you assess a market, sizing. Each of those things I've shared some framework, so that will be useful. Uh, I'd also done a workshop on business model. So maybe you could find that workshop also on the videos because I think this I had done a few months ago for NASCOM. So NASCOM, same video, lot should be, you should get that business model framework in the, not just the framework. I had also shared at that point of time uh, uh, a business model canvas as well. So in fact, I've made some changes to the popular business model canvas, what was from Stanford. I captured some of those things, and in my workshop, I had explained why I've made those changes and what those changes mean. So I think it would be useful if you think you want to capture that. So you can check on that video as well. And yeah, so so here, right, uh, uh, in the context of your model, Abu. So always use real world data to adjust. Or even most important thing is pivoting, right? If you are pivoting something, ensure that you're doing it because of the feedback from the right target group. That is very very important because many a times that has been classic cases, right, where businesses have pivoted and it's been a disaster for them. So biggest of companies and time and again have happened. In fact, uh, Tata Telecom pivoted, went in a disastrous mode. Uh, Reliance Infocom had this problem when it became Reliance Communication after it moved to Anil Ambani, ADAG from Mukesh Ambani's RIL. So a lot of times, biggest of companies have missed a big time. So sometimes, very simple commonsensical approach is to go in a structured way. A lot of these guys are brilliant guys, right? Each of those guys who are working for these companies, they were not obviously coming from any uh, bad place. I mean, they were all coming from great places, great academic background, phenomenal experience. But sometimes people let go of their commonsensical approach and a structured approach. If you just go by the book, many times you actually can solve it. A lot of these things, when I say by the book, is approach step by step. I mean, these are all commonsensical thing, but there is a method to this madness which has been put together from a lot of observations and understanding. So you don't, you essentially de-risk by following processes. The whole idea of this mature processes is that you de-risk your effort, expense, all those things. But biggest of companies have failed to do it. So this is where an opportunity for startups is to grow and scale is, because if you just do it right, you stand to benefit that much more. So yeah, continuous improvement is primarily by ensuring that you support your customer efficiently. And biggest way to support your customer efficiently is just by listening to them. Just listen to your customer, listen to every problem they have. And if you are able to address them efficiently and use it back in improving your own product and service, you are going to achieve that much more success. So I've heard people talk crazily, right? I mean, uh, you know, I, so sometimes it's very easy to become very arrogant. So this is one area where it doesn't help to be arrogant. And many times I've heard people using this Steve Jobs statement that customer does not know what is good for them, right? It is true in some cases, particularly, if you are actually going forward with a product or solution which customer has no idea of what it is, right? If you are in a disruptive space, like if you are actually, I don't want to use AI in this context because AI is more an enabler, enhancer from a point, but they may be working with their own data. But it is obviously about getting a better view. But disruptor would mean maybe like they're using a traditional mode and they use a drone. They have never used drone, so drone comes with its own challenges, opportunities, and limitations, and also attracts complaints. So when you're talking about using something which the customer is never familiar with, you can be on the driving seat in telling, okay, customer does not know what is good for them. But you'd better be sure that you're going to address each of those things, not just about usability aspect, but also compliance aspects of it. But irrespective of it, the outcome of that effort is what the customer has to be telling is good. If that outcome is not as good, then you have notes to take home to, right? You have to take how much of it is not good. So then you need to figure out how do you fix it. So it's not that uh, customer doesn't know means customer can't give you anything. Customer can give whatever you use. I've never used it, so you know better how the drone works. But what is working for me? What is the outcome of it? Is this, and I'm not achieving ABC. I'm not achieving ABC. Using drone, I expected to go till A to E, but I'm not even getting ABC. If he says that, there is something, some feedback you have to take and then look back and see where is it failing. So it's very important, irrespective whether you are working with a product which is so disruptive that customer has never worked with in the past, doesn't matter. But whatever the customer's promise and the outcome, is it been achieved? If it is not, you need to be capturing that feedback and listening to it and be made the customer aware that you're listening so that customer stays with you. The day customer thinks you're not listening, customer's out. Then all your effort is down the drain. And because it also goes out, customer as happily would tell that I'm using somebody's product or service, will be more enthusiastic to tell that I moved out of this. Right? If they tell one person that I'm using this, they will tell 5 people that I walked out of that. So you don't want a unhappy customer. And this is it based on everything. So see, as startups, one big thing, again, I'm sounding a little repetitive, is that we don't capture the document it. So please capture that. So even these things, right? Uh, Feedbacks, evolving user needs, competitive analysis. See, these are some of the things. Many a times, I've also seen that many people, they do it at the start or they do it for the investor. See, don't do it for the investor. Don't do it at the start. You got to be doing it iteratively after every 6 months because landscape is changing so fast. It's just not the technology. The customer landscape is changing. Customer thought processes are changing. So you got to be relooking at who's your competition today. So you got to keep up with that and keep an active view to market trends. See, some of these things is where you actually can take intern sell because you are so focused at your business. I have a couple of students. All their job is to keep mapping this on a regularity. Just on regularity, they need to be looking at it, put together a list. It's okay. Sometimes you may think that, okay, there is no new value. It's the same thing what you knew 6 months ago, but you don't know when the change will happen. So keep getting this and keep having these things coming and keep documenting it, because when you can look back, a small thing you missed, or even get them, put them in an exercise that, okay, that is the 6 months old competitive analysis and market trend that we looked at. Do this exercise newly. When they present you the report, you say that, okay, map it to the last 6 months report and another 6 months report if you have been around for 18 months. Get them to do a comparative analysis between the last 6 months reports, which were internal. So every time try to do the present and the comparative. That will help you get a perspective of how much it is changing, so that you can actually back it up with what was your roadmap and how effective is it in line with what you envision for your own product roadmap. So keep up that exercise, otherwise the whole effort would become useless. And the community building, yeah, we talked about it from a point of community building, that always try to engage your customer and make them to be feel as a part of the community. It's not always cash reward or they getting a premium service at a discounted price. They always like to be part of it for certain tag, some label, some, as a super customer, so many things, right? I mean, so you actually can create a gratification system which is beyond money always. So please think in those lines and be creative about it. So lastly, again, do a periodic review, keep revisiting it, check each of it and realign it. And also what we talked about, the competitive analysis and mapping of competitive analysis, and also the changing trends, and keep checking with your own product roadmap with that, and your own product performances with that, and your own product features from then to now. How is it changing? How is it aligning with the changing trends? Is it keeping in line with that? And also keep looking for the uh, future reports, people predicting that, okay, this is what is likely to happen, this is what is likely to be, this is how it's changing. Just see whether, if try to do a scenario mapping. If such is a scenario, what are the things you may have to do? How do you have to navigate to that process, and what could it mean in terms of even product evolution itself, infrastructure, people, resources? So keep doing that exercise. Always that long-term vision exercise you should minimum look at doing once a year. Spend 2-3 days exclusively on that with your co-founders, and if you've got little more scale, with your senior management. But you got to be doing it. And when you look at pivoting, be very sure, because we just discussed, right, there are biggest of companies who have messed up big time in the way they chose to pivot. So many a times doing what you're doing is the safest thing, but many a times again, if you don't change in time, that's a fastest way to die as well. So it's a uh, two-faced uh, what animal that you have to deal with. So hopefully, if you follow all the processes that we talked about, it'll be a good guide for you to be helping you to persevere whatever you're in, keep up with the same line, or you need to be pivoting, or if you are pivoting, you need to be looking at when. Yeah, Abu.
So the slideshow is not moving forward, I guess, because the you might be in the slideshow mode, which is another window. So it was on growth and scale slider.
1 second, is it, can you see the change?
Yeah, it is now on 15th slide.
Okay, what do you see the title?
It is thank you. It's
Oh,
last slide.
I don't know how is that happening. Okay, actually, I completed. Are you able to see this slide?
Yes, sir, of Steve Jobs quote.
Yeah. Okay, so previously, I don't know where it was. So this is where I was talking about just now. So anyway, what I'll do is that I'll make a PDF of it and send it so you can go through it at your leisure. If you remember right at the start, this is what I was talking about. And I think in between also, I kept mentioning that it's very important that we are mindful of what we don't want to be doing as much as what we want to be doing. And particularly so when it comes to product, particularly and more so when it is an MVP. And also don't look at MVP as only a first phase of it. Keep that MVP mindset in the process of your product evolution as well, because it's very important that value focus is necessary at every time. Is this absolutely necessary? How much of a value it's going to enhance if I add this feature, right? So don't do it to fill up a chart, do it to mean real value. So this is where I think this is what made Steve Jobs, right? That he was able to actually say this. I think there's another interview I remember seeing that I was just looking for some quote, and this is what I found. Proud of many things that we haven't done as things we have done, which is so phenomenal. Because this is where most of us actually mess up because we get carried away in wanting to do more, 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 or something that excites us more than what is actually valued. So that is it. You want to, how much time do we have? I know less than 10 minutes. Yeah, there is some chat. Okay. All right, Akhilesh. Do share the link. I'm just curious what all are there. But some of those workshops we've done in the past on GTM and business model, all those things can be really useful. So if it is there on the YouTube channel, look it up and I'll anyway share this hard PDF copy as well as I'll see what all frameworks I can make for this and send it. And look at the previous frameworks I have sent. And I think they should be really useful in the way of building things. So if you have any problem, do feel free to come back. So any questions right now, Abu? It's only you. So sorry, it was the frames were freezing at some time. I don't know what happened suddenly, but I uh, I didn't change anything in between. We were going through the same flow, so wherever it changed. So any questions, Abu?
Sir, with respect to pitching, I have a question. Like
Go go
a
ahead.
few days ago, I was in a pitching session.
Okay.
So I was thinking, like, should I mention about how long-term approach, like, we have a vision to get used by bigger applications, to have integration with bigger players, to be a B2, B2C play, or like, should I keep the approach like to a short term, mentioning that beyond that we are focusing on B2B only to give them direct data insights? Like, should we mention the whole vision or aim, or like, should we focus on one thing?
Well, Abu, if you're pitching, it's always important to map it to who your investors are, who's there in the pitch on the other side of the table, right? Uh, are they investors? If they are investors, what are their interests? See, there are some investors who only look at SaaS, which is typically B2B, right? So you don't want to be pitching B2C to investors who are only interested in B2B. But then there are some investors who are more keen on B2C approach. And you don't want to be pitching them B2B. So always don't make a single pitch and go to everybody. Make a pitch specific to every pitch and find out if you are getting an opportunity, like let's say NASCOM calls you and says there is a pitch day, come over, ask who are the likely investors there and what is their interest group. Just try to ask for the details, look them up, see what kind of startups they invest in, what is their investment philosophy. Everybody are open about it. They publish it as well, saying this is our interest, this is where we invest. So please get the detail and then make the pitch. So there is no one answer for it that just do all B2B, all B2C. Always make it to the audience. Hope this answer is helping you.
Yes, sir. But eventually, when I asked like what is their sector focus or which kind of companies they look at, so they told they are sector agnostic and they invest in all kind of companies.
Uh, I know these are some standard in the talk, but try to get at least, try to make it more okay. Do they invest in B2B or B2C? Or can you give me an example of what kind of startups they have invested in the past? You get it? See, if you can't get a direct answer, if they can't give you the names out, at least find out what kind of startups. And if they tell you these are the kind of startups they have invested in, that gives you an idea that, okay, these guys are more likely to back a D2C idea or a B2B idea. So I would say just try to get as much or whatever info possible for you to make a right proposition. Or otherwise, my suggestion is when you have, because see, it's very difficult to put B2B and B2C on the same deck. Make two separate decks. When the pitch starts, just ask them that, can I ask a quick question? Or if you have an opportunity to know who are the guys in the last minute also, if you can change it. If it is physical, you will know. If you have gone to an event, you will know who are the guys. You can ask somebody and then quickly check who are the guys on your phone and then pick the pitch that is more appropriate. If it is online also, even if you are allowed to sit on the window, just before, can I get a quick understanding who are the people who are likely to be there? I think in the last minute also, they should be able to tell you that. So try to keep that ready and make a pitch. Or
Yes,
I
but
don't know if it, yeah.
I was saying, but in our case, like the difference is that I mean the paying customer would be business only, but the one who is user, in one case it would be a direct end user and customer would be a bit uh, I mean how to explain. Like I was saying, we would be pitching to a Paytm or a bank who is a bigger organization. It would
Mhm.
be a customer paying customer, but the end user would be the user of Paytm. So I
Correct,
mean, the customer is Paytm only. It's a business.
correct, correct.
So like my business would be a B2B only. My B to structure it in a phrase, it would be called B2B2C.
See, in such a case, no, it's not B2B to C. Your pitch would be a strictly B2B, but what you need to make sure is that your pitch captures a customer journey there.
Okay.
Okay, when a customer journey you put in, you say that this is a user profile and this is the kind of a user and this is how they use it. But then you say product life cycle where uh, product purchase decision cycle you put it. So product will be positioned for the user, but will be bought here. So this is how B2B deals work. See now, if you're selling it to a bank, and if it is customer driven, so first of all, your customer in the bank would be somebody who's heading. If it is retail customer, you will be talking to the retail head. But at the same time, you will have to speak to IT head because this has to have an interface to the IT. And also, since it involves the marketing communication, you'll also have to speak to the marketing head. And since it involves financial implications, you'll also have to talk to the finance head, right? So you will have to talk to different BU heads. So considering that, it is best that you capture how the decision life cycle happens from a purchase decision that happens in a target customer so that your investor understands that you have mapped it well. You know who's your customer, how the decision happens in purchasing this. And when you put a customer journey, your investor knows that you have given sufficient thought process to understand how the customer journey takes place here. And that is what will give the investor that, okay, this guy knows his business well and I should be backing him. And this is not about saying it is a B2B2C or B2B2B or B2B. It is very much a B2B, but there is somebody you sell it to, there is somebody who uses it. But you need to establish that you understand it well. You got it?
Yes, sir, that makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, it's like what's in it's diapers business. Like the parents pay for the diapers and babies use the diapers.
Exactly. But only difference here is when it is technically, I would put it as a consumer product. In a B2B space, it's not a consumable, right? It's not a consumer. So the decision life cycle is happening differently. Like I said, see, the retail bank head will be the owner of it because it affects his business, because he will be the head of the whole retail business. But then IT head will be required because it has to interface with their IT product. In the case of a bank, I'm talking about. But since it involves marketing communication, you also have to talk to the marketing head. And since it has a financial implication based on either user or whatever, so you will have to talk to the finance. So you actually have to speak to different guys, and each of these guys are not that they all don't report to each other, right? They all may be reporting to the CEO. But each of these guys are peers are at different level. Like a finance head may be more senior to the retail head. Marketing head may be also senior to the retail head, but the business owner is retail head. So you need to be very clear and you need to demonstrate that you understand this complexity. A diaper is a very simple, easy example to understand. But when you talk about your customer, the example is right, but you have to break it down and map out how does this process work. And you need to establish it. At least capture in one slide that these are the key decision makers. This is how the org structure looks, and this is how it works. And this is the process of customer acquisition. And people will ask what will be the life cycle of the sales itself, because sales also has a life cycle, right? It's not that you gave a call and they'll sign up. So you need to understand, talk to people who have done this kind of businesses. Is what is a typical sales cycle involved here? Does this take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? So you need to figure that out. And then you need to have those answers. Because investments also go with milestones. If you are asking, let's say you want 2 crores, they will not give you 2 crores now. You need to break down your achievable, saying these are the milestones you will be achieving. So you need to say that I will get to this stage in this point, I'll get to this stage in this point, and I will need this much money for this stage, I'll need this money for this phase. So investor also gives you money on those things. So for the investor to get confidence that you understand the whole process well and milestones you are in a capacity to achieve. So you need to demonstrate that in your pitch. I don't know,
Yes,
am I
sir.
repeating it?
I got the point. I would definitely work on the customer journey.
Yeah, not just customer journey and also the decision flow in the organization. Because that is
Yes.
what you need to establish is you know how to sell, what are the touch points, what are the decision aspects, who takes what decision. And in line you should, if you can talk to people who have gone through the journey to map out, okay, approximately this is the time cycle
Yes.
that it involves.
Yeah, I got the answer. Thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah, so basically, my approach is to first get to the B2B, like to make businesses consume it on their business data. And then when the model gets better as it is get used, we make it faster and more accurate with time by working with these businesses on business data. Then I would use the case study of these businesses, like how they improved their process, how they benchmarked it, and then approach the bigger players. So my approach GTM is that. So like, oh, is there any feedback on that? Would you like to?
No, I think that's good, because if you are able to break down the whole process, it makes it that much more easier. But ideally, you do that exercise not for the investor, but for yourself. That's what I would say, because I think that makes a lot of difference in the way we achieve it. Because end goal is not about raising money, right? End goal is about running a business. A lot of times people forget the end goal gets becomes raising money. So focus on the end goal of building a business.
Yes, sir. I completely get that. Funding is just starting off a new race. So,
Yeah, and at any point of time, you are moving forward. That should be the focus, because funding exercise can be anyway. Sometimes it can take long. You need to be knocking on many doors. So, and also people tell you, why are you doing this? Do that. Why are you doing that? Do this. So you every investor you meet, you will get new ideas. And some investors will also tell you, why don't you do this? I'll put you onto somebody. They would have invested in someone already. They would say, collaborate with this. And it may actually not be in line with what you're actually doing. So you need to take a calculated call whether is that the time to pivot because the investor is telling you so. What does it mean? So, every interactions will keep opening different windows. It is up to you whether you make that window a door or you just close that window and open another window. So, so, so I know it's going after investment is like chasing a mirage. So you really have to be clear what you want to be achieving.
yes, sir. You are absolutely correct. I think it was a great session. I got uh, great insights about the product and product development cycle. And thanks for sharing your experiences and answering my questions.
So, Abu, this is the first time I've done a workshop for one person. So, thanks that it is useful for you. And do you want the PDF? Should I send it to Akhilesh?
Yes, sir.
I'm
I have
audible, sir.
taken
You are
some.
audible, Akhilesh.
I'm sorry for the background noise, sir. I'm feeling Thank you so much, sir, and I'm so sorry for the less participation. From next workshops, I will definitely make sure that at least I can arrange like a good number of participation in the workshop.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's just that uh, sometimes you start wondering whether is it really useful, maybe, or is it that people don't find it useful that there's no participation. So, but anyway, I'm glad that Abu said it was useful for him. So even as long as one person finds it useful, at least effort is worthwhile.
Yes, definitely, sir. As Abu mentioned, your sessions are really good. I have attended this go-to-market strategy and the business model canvas session. As an MBA student, I really find like sessions are really good.
Oh, if those links are there, maybe you could share it with Abu, because I mean, if Abu was not there in that, so
And
maybe those links may be useful. If Abu
sir,
finds it useful.
I have already shared the YouTube channel link on the chat, so I think you both can access and you can see your videos there as well.
Oh, yeah, 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 right. So Abu, you can just look up for those GTM and business model canvas. If you think that will be useful, then please look them up.
Sure, sir. I will have a look at that. Also, sir,
All right.
I
Yeah.
messaged the other participants. Majorly, they were unable to join because it's half of them are students basically currently, so their exams and going on.
Oh, okay. Okay. I I was under the impression that most of them are entrepreneurs. So okay. All right. All right. Thank you. All the best, and uh, do let me know if the frameworks are helpful. I like putting together. And Akhilesh, do let me know if the frameworks are appreciated once you share, and if people say that they are helpful, then do let me know because um,
So
I'm
definitely,
putting time
I'll
to
do it by
make it. So if I'm making it, at least if they are not useful, then I will not make them anymore. That's fine.
definitely, sir. I understand, and I'll definitely by end of the day, I'll share it to the students, and I'll definitely ask their feedbacks, and I'll share it to you.
Yeah, yeah, please. And also, if any feedback from your NASCOM team on those frameworks, appreciate it.
So definitely.
All right. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, sir. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, Abu.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.